Hello MTG friends, it's Zach back at you with another Commander deck tech. It's been a little while, but we're trying to get back into the swing of things. So today we've got an old favorite of mine, Edgar Markov. This is actually one of the first Commander decks I ever got experience with. These precons came out as I started playing the game for real. And so Edgar Markov and Arabo were two of my first purchases right after getting some Kaladesh content. So this is really near and dear to my heart. This is the most recently updated version of my deck. I spent some time getting this deck a little more streamlined, a little updated for Kaldheim and all the Commander products that have come out. Commander Legends. I actually don't know if anything from Commander Legends actually made its way into this deck, but I tried a little bit. Anyway, we're going to go through first all the vampires that are in this deck, then we'll talk about some of the combos, the ramp, the draw, the lands, the protection, and the removal, and we've got two planeswalkers we're playing here too. So let's start off with the vampires. Actually, no, let's start with the commander. That's probably really important to understanding the deck. So we've got our buddy Edgar Markov right here. He is a big boy. He is a 6-drop, but he starts affecting the board immediately. It's really important. He has the Eminence ability. Whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar Markov is in the command zone or on the battlefield, you make a 1/1 black vampire creature token. So every time you cast a vampire, you're getting extra value because Edgar is your commander. That's it. Like it's amazingly powerful. Eminence is probably one of the most broken commander abilities that Wizards has ever printed, and there's a reason they've not revisited it, I think, but it's really, really strong and it makes for some crazy swarms. Anyway, what does the rest of Edgar do? He's a 6-drop, 3 and then red, white, black, so Mardu. He's a 4/4 vampire knight. He has first strike and haste, and whenever he attacks, you can put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. It's kind of insane. Like, he's really, really powerful. He rewards you for swarming the board and then swinging all in. So that's pretty much exactly what our strategy is here. We play a lot of small vampires and then just go absolutely crazy. So we're going to go through our vampires. I say 29 here, but really there's a few cards in here that aren't vampires, but will generate vampires or help us make vampires. So card 1 is Anointed Procession. 3 and a white enchantment. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens, it creates twice that many. And only under your control. It's not symmetrical. So you get this out, you keep playing vampires, bam, you got more vampire tokens. Congratulations. Like, super easy, super powerful. Only 4 mana. We've got Bishop of Rebirth. This is right at the top of our mana curve, actually, in this deck. As I mentioned, you really want to swarm the board, and so low-to-the-ground vampires are really important. But Bishop of Rebirth is a vampire cleric, 3 white for a 3/4 Vigilancer. When he attacks, you get a target creature card with CMC 3 or less from your graveyard right onto the battlefield. So Bishop won't trigger Edgar's cast effect, mind you, but he will just get you your little dudes back, which never hurts, especially because a lot of these smaller vampires are pretty useful. Speaking of, we got Blood Artist. This is a classic. 1 in a black vampire, 0/1. Whenever he or another creature dies, target player loses a life, and you gain a life. It's a vampire, and it drains when people die. It's incredible. Alright, we got Bloodlord of Vaasgoth next. It's a 3 black vampire warrior, 3/3 with Bloodthirst 3. What Bloodthirst means is if an opponent was dealt damage this turn, this creature enters the battlefield with that many 1/1 counters on it. It's a flyer, and when you cast a vampire creature spell, it gains Bloodthirst 3. So this really encourages you to drop your swarm of vampires in your second main phase after you've swung out. But really makes your dudes bigger. And that's the reason why he's another one of our curve toppers right at 5 CMC. Next up, we got probably one of the most powerful vampires in the deck, considering how fast this deck swarms, Captivating Vampire. He is a vampire lord, so he's a vampire type. He's a 2/2 for 1 black. Boosts all your other vampires by +1/+1, but the real trick is that second ability. Tap 5 untapped vampires you control. Gain control of target creature. Any creature. It becomes a vampire as well. And it's not like a wear-off effect. You get the creature. It's insane. Really, really powerful. That 5 vampire seems really high, but like it's not a tap ability on Captivating Vampire either. So if you've got a lot of dudes, you can take more than 1 dude a turn. It's really good. And because of how many vampires we're making with Edgar, you're just going absolutely crazy. We got our boy Cordial Vampire next. This was a fresh printing in in Modern Horizons. Where'd he go? There he is. Cordial Vampire is black for a 1/1. When he or another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. So this is a guy that just kind of helps you pay off for your combat losses and makes all the survivors bigger. However, what's also nice about it is it just says another creature, not creature you control. So if you're killing your opponent's creatures, your dudes are getting bigger as well. And it's each vampire, you don't even have to pick and choose. We got Cruel Celebrant out of War of the Spark. White-black for a vampire 1/2. When it or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses a life, and you gain a life. This is Blood Artist, but I was going to say on crack, but really just more on blood. Just it widens the effect to all opponents rather than just one. We got Drana, Liberator of Malakir. 1 black for a legendary vampire ally. She's a 2/3. Flying first strike, and when she deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature you control. Since she's got first strike, she kind of hits in first as the leader, and then everybody else behind her gets a little bit bigger, and then they crash in. Just kind of a nice go-wide effect. You want a lot of creatures, you want to swing in, and then Drana will pump your team. We got Dusk Legion Zealot next. This is a nice, simple common. It is a 1/1 for 1 and a black vampire soldier. When it enters, you draw a card, and you lose a life. Really just, it's good value. It's a small CMC, decent effect, gets you card draw. Elenda the Dusk Rose, 2 white-black legendary vampire knight. She's a 1/1 with lifelink, but when another creature dies, you put a 1/1 counter on her. And when she dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is equal to Elenda's power. Now, already you're going to be getting a lot of 1/1 counters just from stuff dying, but this deck also just puts a lot of 1/1 counters onto your vampires, so Elenda just runs the risk of getting absolutely massive. Super easy to make her huge. And just really great payoff effect too with when she dies. Especially if you've set up the deck carefully, you can even dodge a lot of that removal that might exile her or bounce her by just sacrificing her instead, because like, she's you want her to die, basically. You want her to get big and then die. Alright, we got a tutor on a creature here. We got Forerunner of the Legion. It is a 2 and a white for a vampire knight. It's a 2/2. When he enters, you can search your library for a vampire, reveal it, shuffle your library, put it on top. And then when another vampire enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. That second ability isn't crazy huge, but I mean, it's just nice to have. Really, the reason we're playing this is it's a creature tutor. Gifted Aetherborn, black for a Death Touch lifelink 2/3. It's an Aetherborn vampire. What more can I say? It's a low drop that's pretty threatening. We got a brand new card next, Immersturm Predator. 2 black-red for a vampire dragon. It's a 3/3 flyer. When it becomes tapped, you can exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and put a 1/1 counter on the Predator. You can sack another creature to give it indestructible until end of turn and tap it. At the very least, this is a free sacrifice outlet at instant speed if you need it, but also it's just a big boy in the sky. Can't really go wrong with that. Makes for an incredible blocker as well if you really need it in the sky, because you can make him indestructible at will. Next up, we got Indulgent Aristocrat. It's a 1-drop lifelink vampire. For a 1/1, pay 2, sack a creature, put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. It's a mana sink for all the excess vampires you might have laying around, for all the excess creatures. Just very powerful card overall. And we've got Knight of the Ebon Legion next. 1 black for a vampire knight, just a single black, not a 1 and a black, just a black. 1/2. You can pay 2 and a black. Knight of the Ebon Legion gets +3/+3 and gains Death Touch till end of turn. So he turns himself into a 4/5. And at the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you can put a 1/1 counter on him. So he grows really easily, especially with the amount of swarming that you'll be doing. Legion Lieutenant is next. He is white-black for a Vampire Lord. Just Vampire Knight, 2/2. Other vampires get +1/+1. Big boys. We got Legion's Landing next. It's a white for a legendary enchantment. When it enters, make a 1/1 vampire. When you attack with 3 or more, transform it. When you transform it, it turns into a land, Adanto, the first fort. You can either tap it to add white, or pay 2 and a white and tap this to make a 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. This is just really impactful because this deck is really good at making a lot of mana, but doesn't always have an outlet for it, and there you go. You can dip 3 extra mana plus this land into making some more dudes. We got Mavrin Fine Dusk Apostle next. Whenever 1 or more non-token vampires you control attack, make a 1/1 white vampire creature token. He's just a good way to generate some extra tokens, and they got lifelink too, so that's definitely helpful. We got Metallic Mimic next. which is just another really excellent card. It's an artifact creature shapeshifter for 2 mana, 2/1. When it enters, choose a creature type. It is the chosen type in addition to its other types, and whenever another creature of that type enters, put a 1/1 counter on it. Not the Mimic, sorry. Put a 1/1 counter onto that creature. So just really great tribal card, and this deck really makes great use of it. We got another newer card out of Zendikar Rising next, Nighthawk Scavenger. This card has actually replaced Vampire Nighthawk in this deck for me. It's a Vampire Rogue Flying Death Touch Lifelink, which is what Nighthawk Scavenger or Vampire Nighthawk had. But then his power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among cards in your opponent's graveyards. You got 3 opponents. Odds are this is going to be pretty big, pretty darn quickly. We got another new card next, Null Priest of Oblivion. 1 and a black for a Vampire Cleric. It's a 2/1. Has Kicker for 3 and a black. It's a Menace Lifelinker. And when he enters, if it was kicked, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Just a good way for some recursion. That Kicker isn't too expensive either. We got Rakish Air. 2 and a red for a Vampire 2/2. When a Vampire you control deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on it. Simple, powerful. Sanctum Seeker over here. 2 black, 3/4 Vampire Knight. Whenever a Vampire you control attacks, each opponent gets drained for 1. You're gaining a lot of life off Sanctum Seeker, and you're really hurting people because it counts every single attacking vampire. We got Stromkirk Captain, 1 black red for a Vampire Soldier with First Strike. He's a 2/2. And your other vampires now have +1/+1 and gain First Strike. That's nuts. Twilight Prophet is probably one of my favorite cards in all of Magic. Let me get the bigger picture of it. That art is just, it's incredible. Seb McKinnon, I bow to you. You're insane, dude. It's a 4 mana, so 2 black Vampire Cleric, 2/4 flying. It has Ascend, which means if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. And we're going to have 10 or more permanents, probably by the first couple of turns. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the Blessing, reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is that card's CMC. Just absolutely incredible Magic card. It's so powerful. Really, really great. Play Twilight Prophet. I know it's expensive, but it's well worth it. We got another easy one next, Vampire of the Dire Moon. It's a single black for Vampire with Death Touch Lifelink 1/1. It's a 1-drop, that's why we're playing it. Same with Vicious Conquistador. 1 black for a 1/2 Vampire Soldier. When it attacks, each opponent loses a life. We're playing it because it's a 1-drop. Viscera Seer has a sacrifice outlet, scry 1, but it's also a 1-drop 1/1 Vampire Wizard, which is why we're playing it. And then we got Yahenni, Undying Partisan. 2 and a black for a legendary Aetherborn Vampire. With haste, he's a 2/2. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Yahenni. You can sack another creature to give Yahenni indestructible. And those are the actual vampires in the deck. Next, we're going to look at the 2 Planeswalkers real quick. They're both Sorens. There's the Sorin from M20, which is Sorin Imperious Bloodlord. 2 and a black legendary Planeswalker Sorin. Comes in with 4 loyalty. You can give him a +1 to give target creature you control Death Touch and Lifelink. And if it's a vampire, you put a 1/1 counter on it too. It's fine value. Another +1, you can sack a vampire. When you do, Sorin deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3. So a little bit of removal, like if somebody's running a Drannith Magistrate. But the real bomb, the reason this is in this deck, is it's a 3 mana Planeswalker, comes in with 4 loyalty, it has a -3. Put a vampire creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Great, yeah, I'm down. We've got enough, 3, 4 drops, even in 2, 5 drops, that this is just a very powerful effect. And then we've also got Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord. 2 white black for a 4 loyalty Sorin. As long as it's your turn, creatures and planeswalkers you control have lifelink. His +2 just deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker, but it puts him right up to 6 loyalty and gains you that life as well sneakily with that little static effect. But more importantly, we got a -X. Return target creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. Creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. It's just a really good revival effect, and he really easily just lifts himself back up with all that loyalty he gains. Alright, we'll talk about the combos in this deck real quick before we get into the protection ramp and draw suites. So this deck has 2 different major combos that allow it to win the game, beyond just swarming the board with vampires and swinging out using Edgar's pump effects and all these other powerful pump effects here. And we've got a lot of lords, but how can we just win the game super quickly? So the first one is an absolute classic EDH combo that's really best used by vampire decks like this, or life gain decks. We got Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood. They are both 5 CMC enchantments. Exquisite Blood is 4 and a black. Sanguine Bond is 3 black. Sanguine Bond says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. While Exquisite Blood says whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. So you just, the triggers, they just go up in a little ladder. You gain 1 life, opponent loses a life. Hey, an opponent's lost a life, you gain a life. Opponent lost a life, you lose a life. Blah, 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 blah. Just up and down the line. And so you just kind of point it at somebody and you just wave the gun around until everybody's dead. Another one's a little more complicated, but it also just works as not just an instant win combo, but as a way to continue generating vampires. And that's Cloudstone Curio, plus Impact Tremors, plus, if you want to just win the game on the spot, something like Phyrexian Altar. But these two together, just on their own, create kind of a fun little combo as well. So, Cloudstone Curio, whenever a non-artifact permanent comes into play under your control, so enters the battlefield, you can return another permanent you control that shares a permanent type with it to its owner's hand. And then Impact Tremors is whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals a damage to each opponent. So if you've got Phyrexian Altar out, which is sack a creature out of mana of any color, and any 2 1-drop vampires on the board, or even the 2-drop ones if you've got like a cost reducer out, any of these 1-drops, you can essentially go infinite. And the way you do that is you have one on the battlefield. You've made a vampire off of Edgar, and you play the other vampire. Now, Cloudstone Curio triggers, Impact Tremors triggers. And every time this is happening, it's triggering twice because you're getting the vampire you played plus the vampire off of Edgar Markov. So you bounce one of those vampires back to your hand. You sacrifice the remaining vampire to generate a black. You play the other vampire, you bounce the previous one back. And you just continue doing this back and forth where those 2 vampires are going bam into the battlefield, bam, next one comes, you bounce it back, bam. Back and forth, dealing a damage to each opponent every single time. You're also sacrificing those vampires to the Phyrexian Altar, and you're generating a new one every time you cast a new vampire. So there's some other ways you're gaining advantage off of that too from some of the cards like Cruel Celebrant or Blood Artist as a way to gain some life and kill opponents faster that way too. So those are really the 2 like focus combos of the deck. So let's go ahead and talk about the draw, the ramp, and the protection next, and then we'll just run you through my mana base for this deck that is completely editable in any way you'd like to. So draw. We got a brand new card, Birgi, God of Storytelling. She is off of Kaldheim, 2 and a red for a legendary god. She is a 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell, add a red. Till the end of your turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once. We do not use that second effect. There are 0 boast cards in this deck. But the gaining a red mana is actually really valuable here, and you can really swarm up with just a ton of mana sitting around for no reason. And then the backside is really where the value comes in. Harnfel, Horn of Bounty, 4 and a red for a legendary artifact. Discard a card. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. You can play them this turn. Draw land. You don't need lands. Pitch it. Impulse draw 2 cards. It's crazy. Really, really powerful effect. Next, we have Demonic Tutor. It's Demonic Tutor. You pay 1 and a black, get a sorcery, go search a card, put it in your hand. Herald's Horn. This is just tribal god tier. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells you cast of that type cost 1 less. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, reveal it and put it in your hand. It's only 3 mana for the artifact. Really just probably one of the best uncommons in the game. Just incredible for tribal decks. Really, really incredible for tribal decks. We've got Necropotence, probably the best card in the game. It's up there. It's insane. Black enchantment, skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Pay a life. Exile the top card of your library face down and put it into your hand at the beginning of your next end step. You're gaining a lot of life in this deck, so you're going to be drawing a lot of cards. Skull Clamp, another just super efficient way to draw. It's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. And the equipped creature is put into a graveyard, draw 2, equip 1. So let's say you don't have any of your lords out. You can just play a vampire, generate a token from Edgar, equip the Skull Clamp to it, and draw 2 cards. Vamp Tutor, Vampiric Tutor. It's like Demonic Tutor, but it puts the card on top of your deck instead, and it's instant speed. You also lose 2 life. Vanquisher's Banner, 5 mana artifact. When it enters, choose a creature type. Creatures of that type get +1/+1, and when you cast a creature spell of that type, draw a card. Just really powerful overall, helpful card. In our ramp suite, we've got really just kind of the usual ramp players. Arcane Signet, Mana Crypt. Ooh, Mana Crypt, there we go. We got that Phyrexian Altar. We got Smothering Tithe, one of the greatest ramp cards in white, or really any color, but especially white. We got Soul Ring, and we've got the 3 on-color talismans. And then our protection and removal, I just put these into the same category. We got Agadeem's Awakening from Zendikar Rising, X, black, sorcery. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different CMC, X or less. And the backside is a land that you can play instead that you can pay 3 life to have enter untapped. We've got Anguished Unmaking. It's removal, 1 white, black, instant, exile, target non-land permanent, but you lose 3 life. Blasphemous Act, 8 and a red for a sorcery. Costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, so it can be as little as a single red. And it deals 13 to each creature. Good old Boros Charm is some quality protection here, but also has the ability to do some removal and to remove an opponent. So for a red and a white, it can deal 4 damage to to a target player or planeswalker. You can have permanents you control gain indestructible, or you can give your creature double strike. Just 1 creature, so it's not like particularly insane, but hey, every little bit of damage counts, right? Now we got Cleansing Nova, 3 white. You can choose 1, destroy all creatures, or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Just a flexible piece of removal. We got Deadly Rollick, 3 and a black for an instant. If you control a commander, you can cast it without paying its mana cost to exile target creature. And Deflecting Swat, 2 and a red instant, same little free gimmick as Deadly Rollick, but you can choose new targets for target spell or ability. So this is more of a protection piece. We got Despark from War of the Spark, white-black for an instant, exile target permanent with CMC 4 or more. We got a Miria's Call here. The front side's cool with 4 white sorcery, make 2 4/4 white angel warriors with flying. Non-angels gain indestructible until your next turn. And it's a bolt land on the back, which is really why we're playing it. Just having the option between a spell and a land at any stage of the game is really nice. We got Kaya's Wrath in here next. White, black sorcery, destroy all creatures. Gain life equal to the number of creatures you controlled that were destroyed this way. We got a New Blood, 2 black sorcery. It's an additional cost to cast New Blood, tap an untapped vampire you control, gain control of target creature, replace the text of that creature with, of all instances of 1 creature type with vampire. So you can even steal somebody's like Tribal Lord and turn it into a Vampire Lord or something like that. Very useful card. We got Shatter Skull Smashing. It's decent removal, but it's also a bolt land. We're playing it because it's a bolt land. But also X red sorcery. It deals X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures or planeswalkers. If X is 6 or more, it deals twice that damage instead. We got Swords to Plowshares, just single white instant, exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Just premium white removal. Teferi's Protection is premium white protection. 2 white instant, till your next turn your life total can't change. You gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. Exile Teferi's Protection. And lastly, we have Vandal Blast, single red to destroy target artifact you don't control at sorcery speed, or overload it for 4 and a red to destroy all artifacts you don't control. And that is the deck that isn't the lands. Land-wise, I'm running Shocks, I'm running Pathways, I am running Castle Locthwain. That's the only one of the castles I'm running. We got City of Brass and Command Tower. We got a Bojuka Bog. We are running the Battle Lands, so the ones that come in untapped if you have 2 or more opponents. Running a Karn's Bastion because of the amount of 1/1 counters we have floating around. We're running 3 mountains because red is very small in this deck. We are running 4 plains. We're running a Reliquary Tower. We got Silent Clearing, so we're running any of the draw lands, the Horizon lands, that are available in these colors. So that is the white and black one and the red and white one. There it is. We're running 7 swamps because we're playing a ton of black cards. Whoa. And then we've got Unclaimed Territory, Tainted Field, and Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and then Vault of Champions to finish off the Bondland cycle. Feel free to adjust this lands in any way that you need to. It's a pretty pricey land bunch here at about almost $300 if you were going to buy all of them. So there's a lot of really easy budget replacements that you can make with this deck, you know. Cheap down your removal, find some of the really expensive cards like Anointed Procession and just get rid of them, put in another cheap vampire. That's really important with this deck overall, is if you find that you're feeling a little priced out, you can just take that card. Metallic Mimic's $10. Do you need Metallic Mimic? Probably not. Find a 1-drop or a 2-drop vampire and put it in instead. That's really it. It's so simple with this deck. Edgar just thrives on having a bajillion vampires on the board. So whenever you're worried about price, just take out that card and put in a cheap vampire instead. It's really the way to do it. Alright, so let's run through a quick play test of this deck, and then we'll wrap up. Let's just show you how this thing can function. Alright, so we're opening with, we got a 2-lander, no black, not particularly great hand here. I think we're going to mull this one into a new game here, and let's have a look at what we got. This is even worse than last time. We're off to a good start. Alright, let's go ahead and mulligan down. Unclaimed Territory, Demonic Tutor, Cloudstone Curio. Yeah, that's a little better, and that would be our other card. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and take this Unclaimed Territory and toss that to the bottom of the deck. And then we'll start the game. Go ahead and draw a card. It's a mountain. We're going to start with a tapped Castle Locthwain just to get it out there. And we'll pass. Untap, draw. Cruel Celebrant, look at that. We don't have a white source, though, but that's okay. We're just going to play a mountain instead. Then we're going to go ahead and Demonic Tutor. Let's have a look at our deck, huh? I think probably the best thing we're going to want to grab here is either some way to make white or just something insane. Cloudstone Curio is definitely interesting. Means a Phyrexian Altar would not be a bad grab. And, yeah, let's do that. Let's grab a Phyrexian Altar and put it into hand. So we can absolutely play that even if we don't have creatures yet. And shuffle. Pass the turn. Draw. There we go. We're going to play a mountain. We're going to tap all 3 of those. Run out the Phyrexian Altar. Pass the turn. Now we can start making some dudes. We're going to play a swamp. Tap them both. Drop a Dusk Legion Zealot. Edgar Markov triggers. Dusk Legion Zealot triggers. We make a 1/1 vampire. We draw a card. Deadly Rollick. We lose a life. Now, what we've got here, I think I'm going to sack this vampire to the Phyrexian Altar in order to make a white. Tap a black, play a Cruel Celebrant. We got another trigger here. We're going to make a 1/1 white vampire with Edgar. Now we only got a single red open, but technically we could really play anything in our hand. But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap the turn for right now. Pass up, untap, and draw. There's a Vicious Conquistador. So I'm going to go ahead and play black, red, red. Play Cloudstone Curio. Now we're going to tap that black, play a Vicious Conquistador. We're going to have a trigger. We are going to make a 1/1 vampire. We are going to sacrifice a 1/1 vampire to the Phyrexian Altar and another vampire to the Phyrexian Altar to make a black and a black. And then we got our Cloudstone trigger as well, and we're going to bounce that Dusk Legion Zealot back to our hand. Now we're going to use that 2 black to play a Dusk Legion Zealot. We're going to make a 1/1 vampire. Would you look at that? We're going to bounce the Vicious Conquistador. We're going to lose a life and draw a card. And we've also got 3 Cruel Celebrant triggers, or 2. So each opponent would have lost 2 life. We would have gained 2 life. Look at that. We're back at 40. We've drawn a Plains here. And then, yeah, we can just kind of keep cycling through this. We won't have enough mana to just continually do this with the Zealot, unfortunately. But we can play this Plains out at least. Sack this Vampire. Play the Conquistador again. We're going to get an additional drain off of that. So we're going to gain a life. Each opponent's going to lose a life. And then we're going to make another 1/1 vampire. I think this is probably the best place to wrap the turn. So we'll go ahead and pass. Untap and draw. There we go. And now we have an infinite combo ready to go. This will kill each opponent. We're going to tap a black. Play an Indulgent Aristocrat. Bounce a Vicious Conquistador. Create a vampire. Sacrifice the vampire immediately to make a black and play the Vicious Conquistador. Because we've sacked a vampire, the Cruel Celebrant is going to drain each opponent. We're going to bounce the Indulgent Aristocrat back. And yeah, we're back where we started, but just with a different vampire on the board. So now we're going to sack this vampire to the Phyrexian Altar, which I'm just going to do by sitting it over there, make a black. We're going to cast Indulgent Aristocrat after draining each opponent for 1 with the Cruel Celebrant. Indulgent Aristocrat enters. We make, hey, look at that, a new vampire. We bounce the Vicious Conquistador. We sack the vampire to the altar. Each opponent loses a life, we gain a life. We play the Vicious Conquistador with the black that we made, make a new vampire. And we do this over and over again until we have won the game with the Cruel Celebrant. This works with Blood Artist, this works with Impact Tremors. Anything that's going to get a drain effect like that whenever something dies or something enters lets us win the game pretty much on the spot. There's lots of opportunities for opponents to interact, but if you're playing carefully or have some backup protection like Deflecting Swat in your hand, you've got a lot of options here. And having the Phyrexian Altar as a way to just kind of sacrifice anything that you need to as well is just crazy powerful. Excuse me. Cloudstone Curio is just such a house in this deck because, I mean, we're playing a lot of creatures and we're going to have no problems bouncing things. It's also really nice to be able to bounce things like Dusk Legion Zealot and just get some extra card draw off of it while making vampires. You don't even need to sacrifice to the Phyrexian Altar if you can, like, play the Aristocrat, bounce the Zealot, and then just spend mana you already have to play the Zealot, make a spare token, you know, so that you have an extra one hanging out, and then you get to lose a life, draw a card, and, like, you're just off to the races with extra stuff. There's a Rakish Heir. Sure, we could play that if we wanted to, or, since we've played the Zealot, we can just bounce the Conquistador and go back to that whole cycle. So that's a like combo-focused look at the deck. If we were to play like a new one, we could also, let's see, not a particularly great hand actually, but we'll keep it just to kind of blow through things here. We'll play the Command Tower, play the Aristocrat. Bam! Turn 1, we've got 2 vampires out. Untap, draw, play. Let's see, do we have any 2-drops? No, we'll play a tap Bojuka Bog. Pass the turn after swinging in 2 damage. Draw, play a Mountain, and we can drop a Stormcrypt Captain. We get another Vampire. All of our dudes are now 2/2s with First Strike as well, so we'll swing in 4 now. So we've dealt 6, and it's only turn 3. Untap, draw. We will play, let's see, probably, yeah, we'll play an untapped Blood Crypt, lose 2. Sure, that's fine. Because then we can go ahead and, let's see, is Mavrin? Yeah. We'll play a Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord. We will go ahead and set his counters to 6 because we will be +1ing him. That'll only deal 1 damage to an opponent, but we're going to gain a life. But then we go to combat. Suddenly we're swinging in 2, 4, 6, 8 damage with lifelink. They're taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are gaining 8 and passing it up. From this point on, we don't even need the mana, but we're going to Godless Shrine it just to have the option to be able to play this Bishop of Rebirth. But instead, we're just going to drop a Mavrin Fine, I think. That makes another Vampire. So we've got nice board here. We're going to swing in another 8. So our opponent's going to go down to 17. And we are going to go right up to 53. Living our best lives here. And then we'll up Sorin by 2 as well, putting us right at them at 16 and us at 54. Additionally, because we have attacked with 4 creatures, Mavrin Fine is going to make us a 1/1 with lifelink. I believe is this one? Nope, this is the Elenda one. I don't know why it's pretending like there's a third kind of a token when there's really 2 vampires that you need. You need a 1/1 with lifelink and 1/1 without lifelink. Alright, so we're going to move to our next turn. We're going to draw, and then we just basically win the game. We tap 1, 2, 3, let's see. No, yeah, I think we'll drop the Anointed Procession now. But we can basically just win the game with the sheer number of dudes we've got. We got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We got 15 damage here. So we full swing. We make a dude with Mavrin Fine. But here's the important part. We hit them for 15, right? They're at 1, and then we just uptick Sorin by 2 in order to kill them. So that's a more aggro-focused version. If we'd gotten 1 more land as well, we would have dropped Edgar and just led our team to victory with Edgar there. But what you're really seeing is just the impact Edgar has on that game without even being on the board. Alright, hopefully that interested you in a heavy Vampire Tribal aggro deck with Edgar Markov at the helm. It is super powerful and super fun. You can really fill up your board in no time at all. leaves you space for blockers, but who needs to block when you can just swing out? Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. We'll have more Commander deck techs for you super soon. And I've been Zach. This is MTG Friends, and thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to become a friend of the gathering, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave us a like if you liked it, and hit up those comments if you got ideas, thoughts, comments to make. We'd love to hear it. All right, once again, thanks for watching. See you next time.